Welcome to the REV Your Agency podcast, the most candid and authentic life insurance and annuity podcast that is hell-bent on helping you be more honest, ethical, productive, and profitable. Tune in and you're going to get exclusive access to the industry's top tools, tips, tricks, and resources from the biggest and most effective producers on earth. You're going to hear real-life stories of agents that went from nothing to something, zero to hero, and how changing the lives of their clients has changed their own lives financially. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and share it with someone you think will find value as well.
Hey, how's it going?
Another day in paradise. What about you?
Pretty good as well. Heck, it's been a busy day, and this is a fun way to end it. Nice to finally meet you. I see you all over my feeds, so it's good to meet a fellow insurance person.
Yeah, dude. Likewise, man. Stay busy. I stay in the feed. That's not everybody should be doing social media to market, but it's definitely one of the things I'm doing. So,
absolutely, yeah. I'll have to get some pointers from you because I'm still trying to get it down. I know our frequency's gotten better. Our content now is just going to get some quality. So,
yeah, dude. There's so many things to that. I think honestly, the number one thing to social media is everyone's like, oh, quality. You got to spend money to have somebody do like high production. They're building everything on Canva or, video, audio. And there's something to that. I think that goes a lot further on YouTube, frankly. Consistency. That's been the biggest, is like consistency. And I call it a 90-10 rule. Like if I'm going to make 9 posts or 10 posts, 9 of them are going to have nothing to do with like insurance or, I do insurance and financial services, but then we also run this mastermind for a few thousand folks in the insurance and financial services space. 9 out of 10 posts need to have nothing to do with that. So it might be my random rant on this or that or the other. One post is going to be like an ask, right? Like, hey, hit me up for. And sometimes we break that rule a little bit, but sticking to that and then consistent 7 days a week, that's what's driven us. And I've been at it now for years and it just kind of compounds. So
heck, it served you well.
It is. And I don't know, be authentic. Nobody needs another buttoned up bow tie bullshit version of the same thing. You're obviously a cool dude. That's why you're hanging out with cool people, unless you feel like you're hanging out with douchebags. Do you feel like your friends are douchebags?
No, not all the time.
Okay, so if you're hanging out with cool people and you feel like you enjoy your life, there's a reason for that, and it's because you're not a piece of crap. So just do that. Quit worrying about like, oh, I gotta do all these things. No, you don't. It's amazing how many people don't want to sit down and watch a video about when you hiked, Mount Kilimanjaro or whatever and found spirituality there. What they want to hear about is like, man, I was pouring out my cereal this morning and I got the freaking prize. First time in 20 years I've gotten the prize. And that's the stuff people want to consume. It's weird, but it's true.
That's so true. And it really is. And when it comes down to it, I love your stuff because I see from both you and a lot of people that follow you just do the damn work. And it's like, it's so true. And I'm just preach that all the time, building their teams and putting in the stuff that seems like it's preachy, but it's like, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, tell me, and you're going to have to please forgive my ignorance.
Yeah.
But tell me more about Keith. What is Keith up to? How'd you get in the business? Why'd you get in the business? This whole podcast, it's kind of short, impactful episodes we want folks to connect with, and they connect with nothing more than your own story, not the shit you're trying to sell them,
I dig it. Yeah, no. So my story is pretty simple. I think it's a lot of our industry's story. I started as a telemarketer, and I was so bad that I hung up during my first voicemail halfway through. And now here I am 11 years later, district manager with Farmers Insurance. But there's a lot of steps in between, right? It was becoming an agency producer, getting licensed. It was becoming securities licensed. It was becoming an agent at one point, really helping other agents at a given time. And so it really evolved over time. And I always felt uncomfortable when I was taking the next step. And I would tell anybody along the way is if you're getting uncomfortable, know that the next step's probably going to happen, right? And that's where I think if anybody gets anything out of my story, it's just keep moving forward, keep progressing through the thing, because you never know. I would have never guessed that I'd be in Minnesota after being an agent in St. Louis for a while.
Yeah, that's a good change. That's cool to hear that you're with farmers. I've been diving in a lot lately with farmers agents. I spoke at the Farmers Mega Conference back in October out in Scottsdale, and I've been working with a lot of the Oklahoma boys actually. Trent Finley, Cole Carn, Caleb Connor. Caleb's out now. He decided to take his career elsewhere from what I hear, but been learning a lot about the farmer's way of life and helping a lot of folks with farmers. So what attracted you to that? Not just farmers, but the district manager side, because that's totally different than running an agency.
It does sound like it. And I would say too, so farmers, what originally attracted me is somebody told me I can make $2,500 a month. And like, to me, being 21-year-old, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like I've never seen as much money as that in my life. And so given the progression of that, being on the district manager side, I'd almost implore every agency to almost treat their own agency like it. Because I would say the best thing that I can't do right now is bind policies. And that is what I would implore any agency owner to act like they couldn't bind policies, because they'll empower their team members that much more. They'll market for them. They'll empower them to service, do the things to build their agency. And it really struck me when you go to say, oh yeah, I want to go bind a policy and make something happen right away. It's that much more, and it makes you that much more an effective business owner, I think, when you're setting it up for others.
Dude, I love that. So tell me about your agency. What is it you're building? And every manager, MGA, district manager, every unit owner I've ever met has this concept, and maybe you're different, but they have this concept of, like, I want to be different. There's the norm for our organization. Let's call it farmers, but like, how are you trying to stand apart? Like, why would somebody say, hey, I'm going to go work with Keith and open up or buy into a farmer's agency with Keith, as opposed to, the next district over, or whatever the case may be? What is it you're building?
Yeah, really what we're building, and I take the moniker Kingmaker. I really want to make sure people feel empowered to build businesses, not just highly paid sales careers. Because I see so many in our industry, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, that get on hamster wheels, if you will, and they just try to sell themselves out of a problem, sell themselves. And it's like, at a certain point, you do need a little bit of a break. You need a little bit of a reprieve. And if you're not building a business that can consistently do that past yourself, I've always found that, like, the law of diminishing return is there. You'll start to either resent the business, you'll resent a carrier, whatever you're part of. If you're not building a team and empowering them, and it's that much more rewarding, right? Go to the other end of the spectrum. As you're helping people develop in their careers, much like people have helped me, now it's cool seeing people sell their first policies. It's cool seeing people build teams and empower them and market. And it compounds so fast, and it's so cool to see.
Dude, I love that. I've long held, and it's one of the things we push, out to our agents as well when we're teaching them. It's like, if you think it feels good to go buy a Cadillac or a Lexus, just wait until, like, your team starts buying Cadillacs and Lexuses. And it's not just about the nice, fancy life, but it's just wait till your team hits you up and is like, hey, I'm caught up and I'm 3 weeks ahead of schedule on production. My boy's got a baseball tournament out of state. I want 3 days off. Can I have it? And you're like, hell yes, go be with your kid. So satisfying. So it's cool to hear you say that.
Well, and two, I think something I'm really good at is just showing them my mistakes. Like, showing them, here's where I messed up, and I don't want you to make these same mistakes. Here is what I call the dumb text for not, like, learning this lesson here, and here's how much it cost me. Like, those, I think, are just as important as teaching them the skills and the things, because at different levels you learn different things, like buying a website, or maybe you're investing in a lead vendor, or maybe, heck, you're trying out a new compensation plan. Knowing the pros and cons of what can go good and what can go bad based on that person. It's cool to have a sounding board and be that sounding board sometimes.
Right. So what do you think for your agents? Like, obviously, being in farmers, I started in the captive multiline world. I spent the first 5 years of my career with American National and had a great time, did good things there, but it really does create this kind of microcosm, this bubble. But I think there's a lot to learn there as well. So I guess, with your agents and in your own career, what have you seen? Like, what's the biggest struggle? What are people fighting with the most right now today? Not in general, but today.
Change. I think it's our industry. You see it on personal lines, you see it in every line of business out there. It's change, and the people not willing to change, right? So I think a lot of people come to our industry, one-man bands, build it up to a certain point, and then just kind of thought they could coast off it. And our industry's such that you can't coast at any given time. It's becoming more and more volatile, so you have to be that more adept, build that much better team so you can handle. I don't know if you ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese. I love that book because I use that as the example. Like, and it's not going to be farmers, and it'll be insurance in general, or it's heck, you want to go much more macro, say the economy. Things are going to change. Like, the top 10 jobs that are in demand today aren't going to be the top 10 jobs in 10 years. So it's being able to adapt. I mean, I look at something like AI. I know that's a hot topic, and learning how to play with it, learning how to implement it in your business and doing things like that to really get a step ahead. I mean, so I don't know if that answers it completely, but change is what I see.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you and I are probably both plugged into some very similar circles. You know, we're not barbecuing on weekends together yet, but yet.
Yeah.
You said Minnesota? Minnesota. So I'm just saying, like, eventually I better get invited to a Midwest barbecue, dude. And there better be some good Bloody Marys and some good beers in between. So
absolutely. We got a lot of good eats up in Minnesota.
So with farmers, like I say, we're in similar circles. I coach a ton of multi-line agents. What do you think the pivot is? What's the profitable pivot?
So, I mean, I always default to building a team. If you're talking line specific, I would probably say life. Like, life to me, life insurance and those financial products, if you will, stuff. And the reason why I say that, and it could be any product, take your pick. The reason why I say that one is because it forces the agent to have better conversations with people. It talks about their why, it talks about their money, talks about things that matter to them, and it gets them in uncomfortable conversations where your run-of-the-mill telemarketer is not going to ask about your 401k or your assets or your liabilities and things of that nature. They're just giving you a price and moving on, right? Where the good agent, you're seeing they have a full comprehensive breakdown as much as they can, and they're really tapping into that person's why at the end of the day. And that's what makes them an advisor and a trusted person versus, again, for lack of better terms, your run-of-the-mill agent.
Yeah, I love that. I've found in my career, and again, all the folks I work with, if they can get the life or the financial services, the personal lines is easy. Even pivoting to the business, which for a property casualty agent, I think commercial is the property casualty pivot right now. I'd love your input on that. But yeah, if you can get that financial service piece, the conversation is so much deeper. The revenue's there. And then here's the thing for multi-line agents. I really hope multi-line agents, especially farmers agents, but all multi-line agents are tuning into this one and listening to you, because multi-line contracts are developed to be the most robust when you act like a multi-line agent, right? And I know your contract specifically has some nice bumps and some nice pips for producing on life, which gets largely ignored. Something about 15 apps a quarter, and we don't have to get into contract details, but I'd love your narrative on just know your contract, maximize your contract.
Well, yeah, and I always break it down to the simplest thing. Like, I was talking to a group this morning about life insurance, and I was saying, let's break down the reasons you sell it, right? One's the real reason, doing the right thing for somebody. Talk about retention. So when you cross-sell a line of business, heck, that customer stays that much longer because you're that much more trusted. Again, you're having a better conversation, and there's bonuses and trips and things associated with that. But just the financials work out so much better on both ends. I love your input on the commercial thing, because I think there's always going to be small businesses, and it's ever changing. You look at commercial insurance 10, 20 years ago versus today. I think one of the great things that Farmers has is we have a plethora of different companies that after Farmers, and it's not in Farmers' appetite, our agents can sell through a brokerage that has a robust amount of carriers. I kid sometimes and say, hey, we have probably more than your independent friend. And I joke about that, but there's some truth to it. I don't know where I was going with that, but essentially, yeah, if you believe in the product that you're selling, the line of business, right? Like you could talk Medicare, you could talk life, you could talk that. If you pivot it, you can get to all the other lines of business. You just have to know that product and truly get to connect with that customer.
Yeah. I think commercial is such a quality pivot right now. Like you say, small businesses, they're not going away. And I will say this, and whether it's Farmers, State Farm, American National, Farm Bureau, Countrywide, I have found as a small business owner myself, it's hard for me. I still have some of my business with American National that I initially wrote there. Why? Because they're so damn competitive in that market. Like even I'm independent now. I don't do property casualty, but I coach like almost 4,000 agents across multiple countries. If you don't think I have access to independent contracts and producers, you're crazy. And I just had my personal lines requoted, actually. And what was it? I think I saved $300 a year, but the carrier I'm with had the cashback program where if I don't have claims, I get 25% of my premium back every year. I haven't had a claim in 10 years. And it's like, man, that cashback check's worth $1,800 a year to me. I'm not moving for $300 a year. Like, I think the captive carriers sometimes get discounted so quickly on their base product, but folks don't even realize a lot of your captives right now. I know you guys, I know American National does. Liberty Mutual is now with Comparion, so they have a few options. Farm Bureau has a brokerage outlet. Like, people don't realize your captive agent can do so much more, especially on the commercial side.
Yeah.
Not so much on the personal lines, a little bit on the personal lines, but especially on the commercial.
Yeah, and it's ever evolving. I love to call us exclusive over captive because when it comes down to it, we exclusively pridefully get to sell the farmer's product, right? And that's something that I'm really proud of. I know our agents are really proud of. And yeah, like you said, we have other options. So it's a unique business opportunity at the end of the day that it's only becoming stronger. And I'm excited for the next generation of people coming into our industry. One thing I love about what you do is there's a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of insurance that get to talk to each other, and it's good networking, just seeing everything out there, right? I love the 20-somethings that are coming into our industry now that have a whole different perspective than you and I. Just like, it's interesting how they think, and I feel like an old person at 31.
Dude, isn't that weird feeling old in your 30s?
Yeah. I talked to one person today, and we were doing a live quote, and he started it with two, and I'm like, oh, you mean no, you got to put one there first, and then like 1990 something, right? It's like no, I was born in 2002, and I'm like, oh god,
that's funny. So tell me more about your personal life. What is it you do for fun? What is this business afforded to you that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise? I mean, what does Keith like to do?
So funny enough, I don't have many hobbies. Like I am obsessed with this. Like I'm a business nut. I obsess about how can we grow this bigger, badder, and everything about it, right? Because I truly see it changing lives. It's like not just a tagline. I see people, and it's cool to see when the what I call the eureka moment happens and the bell clicks. My personal life, I mean, I have two beautiful girls, Tori and Bailey, my wife, Jamie. And they really take care of me as soon as I get home, because I know the battery is like, I leave it all out there. Once I get home, I'm like exhausted, but they're always great about it. So seeing the fun adventures, and I've been lucky enough that if we want to we went to Fargo this weekend, another place called Maple Grove in Minnesota where they had ice castles, things of that nature. I can do that stuff, and it's the quote unquote financial freedom. The part I love about it too, and I know you can relate, is at any given time, say, hey, it's a Tuesday in February, I can go to X place. I'm not worried about like I have to be here because it's a job 9 to 5. You can plan your day around and plan your weeks around. Heck, I know you're kind of interviewing me, but how about you, Carson? I'd like to get to know you a little bit.
This is my podcast. I get asked questions. No, dude. I have got the most amazing wife on earth. Like, the shit she has had to put up with, I wouldn't have put up with me. I will tell you that. And if, I mean, there's 100 other reasons why she's a better person, but if that was the only one, it would be enough. I've got the two most beautiful little boys. And just like you said, as you're kind of explaining some of your stuff to me, I'm literally sitting there thinking like, man, I put it all out there. I never go home. I do not go home with energy. I crawl from my truck to the door inside. Like, I open the garage door, I walk in the garage, and that door headed into the washroom or the mud room there, right? And before I go into the main house, that door, I'm still in the garage. Dude, there are days like I put my hand on the wall and sometimes I weep. I'm so exhausted.
Oh,
but then I crack that door open and my boys, every freaking night, I don't deserve it, but I get it. And man, I'm grateful. I crack that door, they hear it open. They come running up. They give me that hug. They're like, Dad, we miss you so much. My wife is there and she's like, hey, babe, how's it going? And it's like life is breathed back into me, right? And that's like my Monday through Friday. And it's not a dark, detrimental place. I just hang it all out there. I give everything I have. I wasn't taught to do anything else. But then because of that, because of the work ethic applied to a business as amazing as this business we're in, this insurance business, because I could put that kind of work ethic into a lot of things and not have the return, frankly. But because of that, like you said, my boys have every other Monday off. I can take off, or I can go into work later. I can do this. Hey, let's run down to Chick-fil-A. Let's go to Smitty's and get some diner breakfast. Let's just abscond, in the summer. Let's abscond into the wilderness, and we don't feel like coming back on Sunday. Screw it. We'll come back Monday. Dad has a couple meetings he can't skip. I'll hit those, but I've got good enough service I can hit them. And then we're going to go play out in the trees and just do our thing. And that's my life, dude.
So because it relate too much to what you just said, do you ever fear, like, because I know you're the go type too. Do you ever fear like, oh man, I might be spoiling my kids a little bit too much? I want them to learn this too. Like, I feel like I have that complex of like, man, I want to give them everything, but I don't want to give them too much. Like, I got to make them hurt it.
Yeah. And that's why I beat their ass a little bit. No, I do. I was not raised in a very wealthy household. My parents struggled with money my entire childhood, and we won't get too deep into that. But because of that, there was a lot of things that I had to do that I feel like made me a better person, frankly. And so I try and still instill that in my boys. Like, it's a Saturday, yeah, get up and watch some cartoons. But before we go do the fun thing, you're gonna do your frickin' chores, you little bastard. Like, unload that dishwasher. We still have we have some older we have some nice vehicles too, but we have some older vehicles. And so I'm like, hey, come out in the garage, help me change the oil on the pickup that we're gonna, we've got this old 2004 pickup. We take it camping, and I love the damn thing. I can park it in a frickin' tree and not care about the paint. I love that so much. I've had, and again, we have some nice vehicles. I love that old damn thing. I hate driving a nice brand new thing out camping and it's like scratched up and no, but those older vehicles take a little extra. I come from an automotive repair background, so that's something I know how to do. It's the business I was in before I got into insurance. So I make the boys come out, like, we're going to change the oil. We're going to throw some U-joints on the drive line. We're going to, like, whatever we're going to do. And I try and keep them humbled that way. I was just talking to my wife the other day, and she's like, what do we do when the boys are older? And I was like, getting ready to have a license. And, the bigger conversation was, what do we do? We were actually talking to her mother about survivorship. We're getting ready to kind of rework our will and trust a little bit. And we've got some life insurance. I'm a life insurance agent. Yeah. Every time a bonus was on the line, you better believe I bought a policy. But she's like, well, what do I do with all this? And it's like, well, first of all, done a lot of work to help give you direction and help. But secondly, do not buy my boys a new car or a new truck or they can have $1,500 to go buy a beater. And then they can call up their uncles, my brothers, who would be more than happy to teach them how to get that beater on the road. And that's what the hell they can drive. And they need to, for humility's sake, for fun's sake, for all these things. So I don't know if that answers your question or gives you some insight, but dude, yes, I feel like I'm spoiling them, but I also try and beat their ass, you know?
No, I love it. I'm always worried about it myself. I'm like, here's everything, but again, at the same time, want to make them earn it along the way because I'm always just like paranoid. I'm like, I want them to be as hard work ethic as I am. I'm like, I want them to have all the fun things that have been afforded to me. So it's cool to see that same thing.
So let me ask you this. What is it you're doing to guarantee that whether you live another 90 years or 9 minutes, your girls have, like, they got the best of you, you know? They got the best of you, and they could look back on their life today, tomorrow, decades from now and say, I got the best of Keith. I got the best of Dad.
Yeah, that's a deep question. That's a really good question. I mean, just thinking through it, I mean, as much as I'm like, I give it all to my business, try to make sure like they have everything. Like I try to break it down like financially, spiritually, health, like that they're covered on all bases, that I did everything I can to make sure they ate right, or that they had the home to grow up in, that they had the mom that's awesome taking care of them, like that they had everything that could be given to them. And at the same time, the lessons taught to them and really pushed in the right direction rather than some of the mistakes that I've made along the way. Again, getting to avoid that to make other mistakes, right? What I call better mistakes along the way. But hopefully that answers it. Like, yeah, that's a tough question because it gets me fired up just thinking about it because I'm like, man, I hope I'm doing it. Like, that's the cool and scary part of this whole thing is there's no scoreboard, right? Like, on a scale of, like, if you ask me how good a dad I am, I'm like, I'd probably say 7. Like, I don't think I'll ever feel like a 10. I feel like I'm doing a good job, and I still feel like there's a bunch more I can do. But I feel like the people that probably think they're 10s, I'm like, there's probably a red flag there. But yeah, when it comes down to it, like, there's no scoreboard for it. So I don't know about you, but I always try to quantify, okay, what am I doing for work? What am I doing for this, that, and the other thing? Man, it's hard to quantify, like, how good a dad you are at the end of the day.
It is. What would you, like, in that moment, like, let's say your girls are sitting there reminiscing about Dad. Is there a specific memory you've already created or one you want to create that you haven't yet that you hope that they remember?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, probably a bunch. I mean, Disney World during COVID was definitely one for us because once they knew we were moving to Minnesota, my wife's like, you're taking a vacation before you jump on to the next adventure. So that was memories there, whether it's their birthdays. So usually we do a lot of fun things with a lot of their friends for birthdays, things of that nature. I think, if anything, if I can be a background character in their story and make sure their story is that much cooler because the scene was set up right, that's it for me.
Dude, I love that, man. That's pretty damn cool.
Heck, I appreciate it. Heck, I didn't know everything we'd be talking about today, so I appreciate you asking good questions because sometimes, like in our industry too, I think everybody hyper focuses on like the technicalities of like PNC and like you need to know auto and home, and it's like, no, like people are people. Get to network out there. I mean, we have so many darn good people in our industry, and talking to people from all over. Like, I'm so glad I got to connect with you. Like,
yeah, and I look forward to talking again soon. Hopefully, let me kind of wrap up. I know we're kind of at our time here, but let me wrap up with kind of this question here because you're right. Like, we get so buried in technicalities and the tactical approach, and I'm guilty of that. We do a lot of that with what we teach and in our mastermind and whatever. It's necessary at points, but doing this because this is the way you do this was never the reason, right?
Right.
It's never the reason. Like, if your reason for getting out of bed in the morning is so that you can do X, Y, Z appropriately and follow through and follow up and blah, 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 I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, your life sucks. There's so much more to it. Like, so we call it whole self-centric: physical, mental, spiritual, family, and work, right? So much more to it. So my last question is this, and let's wrap up with this. And then again, you and me, I would love to just jump on the phone and just shoot the shit for a bit. And you're a cool dude, man.
Absolutely. So, you too, man.
Here's my question.
I didn't know how similar we'd be either too. So hearing you talk, I'm like, when you talked about the kids running up there to the door when you're like empty gas tank, I'm like, oh man, that's scary. Like how close that is.
Dude, we can talk about that. So here's my question, dude. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Because this shit isn't easy. Why do you keep doing it?
Yeah, it's the thrill of seeing somebody else succeed and at a high level. Like my ultimate goal is I want to see it in like 3 levels for me where I know I contributed just a little tiny bit, and now that person 3 layers removed from me is that much better because of second person and first person that I talked to. Like I think it's so amazing that people don't know how much little encouragement they need on top of you just show things that are out there, proven models. So you don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to be like crazy with all the technology. At the end of the day, you take stuff that works and you put it in front of other people and encourage them. Man, that alone can help so many people, and it's not talked about enough.
Dude, I love that. I love that because, like, at the end of the day, like, it's not just about them selling another policy, right?
No, God,
It's about the fact that, like, because you gave this, they got that, and now here they are standing at the door, about to walk in. Gas tank is empty, and I know folks can be like, "Oh, well, that's so selfish. Your gas tank is empty, and you rely on your wife and kids to fill it up." I'm sorry, but it takes 2 to tango. To be filled up, you have to be willing to receive. And I spent years. I almost ruined my marriage over it. Almost didn't get to be a present father for it. Not being willing to receive. And it breaks my heart thinking back about it. But the thing that gave me the courage, the willingness, the desire, the energy to be willing to receive was that one little win I did have during the day. Because somebody like you hit me up and was like, "You got this. You can do it. Here's maybe a little tip or a trick," but it just kept me going, you know?
Absolutely. The same here. There's people where they praise me when I didn't deserve it, and they've kept me going along the way. So it's all about those people and being able to do that. And again, it takes so little effort to give that out to somebody and give the attaboy, give the praise, and genuinely read it. And it could light up their whole day. You just never know. Again, I can ramble on about it, but it's just awesome.
I love that, man. Anything you want to leave with folks as we wrap up here?
No, heck. Well, I'd say do the darn work. I'd echo that message. And if I could add to it, just adding one other layer, it's build the darn team. So when it comes down to it, it's selfish to do it all yourself. You got to delegate, empower, because you're helping other people to grow. If I can get that message out there to just one other person, heck, it's worth it.
Dude, I love that. Thank you for being here, Keith.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Appreciate all that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to keep doing it. I hope you keep doing your thing. This has been another excellent episode of the Rev Your Agency podcast. Remember something, nothing happens if you don't do the damn work. So take what you've got from this, take what you've learned, and go implement it today. It's not about having everything. It's about having one thing and implementing it every day so that you can take your production, your agency, and the lives of everybody around you to the next level. If you could use some help with it, hit us up at revagencysyndicate.com and jump in. We run a mastermind that is dedicated and hell-bent 10 times more than this podcast could ever be into helping you have the education, collaboration, and accountability that you need to go to the next level. Whether you are captive, independent, whether you're life only, or you focus on multiple lines, it doesn't matter. We're here to help. Let us help you.